Hey everybody. So sometimes bad things happen to your trees, and whether it's your fault or not, you also have to go back and clean them up and get them to grow again. So this one, it was left outside when it was too cold. So it froze. It froze all the leaves. I mean, you can see that's what the ones that are still on here look like. Most of them look like this. Just froze them. That's not what leaves are supposed to look like when they turn brown to fall off for the wintertime. So it's coming up on spring, and it was nice and warm for about a week. So I thought I might as well put the trees outside so they can get some good growth on them and get going for the spring and the summer. And that was the wrong answer. That was the wrong answer. I should have left them in the greenhouse for another week or so. So it's actually still going to be down into the high 40s later on this week. So I think I'm going to try and keep them in. Well, I am going to keep them in the greenhouse another week. Hopefully they recover. Some of the branches are obviously dead. I mean, if it cracks and breaks, it's absolutely dead. This would be a good time to do a major pruning, a major trim back, as you can see all of the branches. These type of trees, you can do a defoliation on them. So when it's healthy, you can take all the leaves off of it. I generally do them after the first flush of growth in the spring, because obviously these are evergreen, so they're always going to have leaves on them, or they should always have leaves on them. When the leaves harden off for the first major growth spurt of the spring, then I'll defoliate them, and then the next burst of growth, the leaves are a little bit smaller, and there's a lot more twigging and a lot more branching. Obviously, a lot of this twigging and branching has been damaged, so I am going to have to take some of it off. Some of it looks like it is going to survive, but it's okay, because bad things happening make your trees look better. So it's not that we want to torture our trees or anything like that, but I mean, you take the good with the bad, and you take the bad and turn it into something good. So we're going to get to it. Chop off the dead portions of the branch so that the live portions of the branch have someplace to go. I'm also going to do some of the pruning that I would have done after I defoliated it. I mean, because now it's already defoliated. So I'll cut off some of the stuff that I don't want to keep. And we'll go from there. Hopefully this spring is really good to this tree. These trees will backbud along the trunk, so later on we might get some more branches down here. If not, I'm going to make the top be the canopy, obviously, up here. I'm going to probably trim it back. I don't think you can see these top branches on the camera. I put to where you can see more of this stuff, so I might switch that here in a minute. But anyway, I'm going to trim off all of this stuff, make the trunk look clean and smooth, and then I'm going to repot it, because as you can see, it's pushing out of the pot. Some of the main roots are actually sticking up out of the pot. I started to repot it yesterday and decided that I was going to make a video, so I stopped. That's why it kind of is actually hanging out of the pot. I can just pull it out of the pot. So we'll get to that later. I'm going to clean it up and get to it. kind of bright in here. So typically on the ficus benjaminus, you don't want to cut the branch right at the node, like what I did right here. This is a larger branch, so this branch will actually survive this. But the smaller branches, if you cut them at the node, it'll die back to the next node. On the larger branches, like I could cut it off right here, and this branch will survive that cut right here if I cut it off. But if I cut it off any closer than this with that small branch will die. So just make sure when you're trimming it back like this to leave a little bit. Once that branch starts to grow and that actually dies back all the way, then come in and clean it up the rest of the way, and it'll look good. Really don't want to take all the branches off. If they've got life on them, I kind of want to leave as many on here as possible, so that when it starts to recover, it'll recover quicker and actually become healthy again. So I'm just kind of looking for all the very dead stuff to take that off right now, and then once it gets healthy again, then I'll go back through and prune it some more. But I'm going to trim it up pretty good. I mean, I want it to look good. I don't want it to be really strange looking or look terrible. So there's that. That looks like it's pretty good. Bring it down here for you so you can see it. That's the top of the tree. It's got a lot of twigging on the top of the tree. Still haven't fully decided what I want to do with the full shape of the tree. I want it to get a little bit thicker because I kind of like the double trunk, and then it goes to another double trunk like right here. But I like how it's short and low to the ground. It's a pretty cool tree. So we're gonna go ahead and repot it now. So this root mass is from 1 year of growing. I repotted this last year into that pot early spring. So that's 1 year of growth here. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna clean off the surface, clean it down to the larger roots, because I'm gonna lift this up out of the pot just a little bit. And I'm gonna have it sit probably somewhere about that height. We'll see when we get down to the roots where it looks good, but I want to raise it up in the pot a little bit. I might cut some of the higher roots off, because this root doesn't look so good, just going right across the top of the soil. Might just be something that I've seen. I don't know if you grow benjaminas and you have different experience with them. Let me know, because I'm always willing to learn. It's got some really thick roots right here. You don't have to be super careful with their roots either. I mean, You know, obviously their roots grow pretty quick and reestablish themselves pretty quickly. But I mean, if you want to keep a certain root a certain way, obviously you got to be careful with it. I think I've said before, but their thicker roots will break instead of bending because they get full of water, so it makes them more brittle to breaking. For some reason, the garden centers where I'm at in Florida don't sell bonsai soil, so I have to order it, or I have to get all the materials and make it myself, which I've done that a couple of times now, and I prefer to make it myself now. But it's kind of hard to get all the parts to it also sometimes. So anyway, I reuse my bonsai soil. I'll wash it out, wash all the dirt out of it, wash all the root matter, all the dead plant matter that's in the root or in the soil. I'll wash that out, and then I'll reuse the soil. Because I mean, the soil is pretty much rocks. Of course, so that was crazy. Some big helicopter just flew right over the top of the yard. Where was I at? Yep. Anyway, so I reuse my bonsai soil because it's mostly different kinds of rocks, and I use safety zorb. It's a type of dry sweep. That's the type of dry sweep I can get here in the U.S. and Florida. I can get it pretty much anywhere in the U.S. I'm not sure if there's a different name for it in different places, but that's what I use. And it comes in a really large bag because it's for automotive dry sweep to clean up oil spills. You might call it something else somewhere else, but that generally works. One way to test it is if they have a smaller bag, rather than getting the large bag up front and it not working, but get a small bag and put it in, put some in a bonsai pot. I mean, without a tree, just put it in the pot, kind of pack it in there, and then water it for a week like you're watering a tree. Watch how fast it dries out. If it dries out, if it turns to mud, then obviously that's not going to work. But if it drains really well, and obviously it's going to drain the smaller particles out of it the first time you water it. And I sift mine because it has smaller particles, and I use the bigger particles for the soil. So I'll sift the smaller particles out of it. I don't know what size the sifter is, but I mean, just a reasonable size works perfectly. But anyway, so if it turns to mud when you water it, you don't want to use that one. Try a different type. That's why I'd say get the smaller bag first. But when you find something that works really well, that actually does work really well because it's a type of fired clay, so it absorbs moisture, but it doesn't break down because it's fired. But yeah, that's one of the things I use. I use lava rock, like smaller particle lava rock. I do use pumice sometimes. I don't always use the pumice. Sometimes I'll use pumice, and I mean, basically what you're really looking for is a larger particle soil. I mean, that's a lava rock right here, and a pumice. I use them in between this size and the littler size like this, and it all works really good. You just want the tree to drain readily and quickly, and you want to be able to get oxygen in the soil. So that's what the larger particles are for, to be able to get oxygen in the soil. This root is really cool. It's coming out the trunk here. I don't know if you can see that. It's coming out the trunk here and then bending really sharp right there. and then coming back this way. I think I'm going to uncover this root and make it sit outside the pot. So in my collection, I've got quite a few of the ficus benjamina. I don't have any other ficus trees currently, but I'd like to get into some of the other ficus trees because I really like the ficus. They're a really interesting species of trees. So now on the bottom, I just want to not smash my other trees. I just want to break this up because it's got this mat. It just opens right up when you pick at it. If it gets too thick, then you'd have to cut this off. But this is just at the bottom because I did repot it last year. So this is all the little tiny feeder roots that are on the bottom. But you want to spread those out before you repot it, or this will just turn into a mat or stay a mat, and it'll all die with the new soil because it'll be just pushed up against it, and they won't spread out into the new soil. I'm really happy to see all the roots are still a light brown color because that means that they're still alive. When they start turning black, then that's not good. You don't want black roots. Alright, so I've got this root going across the top here. And I kind of want to showcase this root that's down here instead of this one up here. So I'm going to cut this one off. I know these trees look good with aerial roots, like really big, thick aerial roots on them. But these ones are they're right across the surface of the pot, or the root mass. So I want to take those off. Start building a really nice root structure on this. And this root's crossing over a whole bunch of roots, so I want to get that out of there. One of the biggest reasons why to root prune your bonsai trees is to keep the smaller roots from strangling the bigger roots. You don't want the smaller roots to strangle your larger roots, because then potentially it'll kill the tree. So you want to keep them spread out enough that there's space. Just trying to open up this space a little bit. Make it more noticeable. That's the root that I was uncovering right here. It's a really nice looking root. It's got a lot of feeders on the bottom of it. So it's doing pretty good. I'm going to cut it back a little bit here. Now right there's the one that went down through the screen. Cut that off so it doesn't go through the screen again. A lot of times I'll go to the bottom, and any of the roots that are growing straight down, I'll cut those off. The ones that are growing across and stuff like that on the bottom, I'll leave those because you want these middle roots. They're part of the health of the tree. They keep it healthy. So you don't want to cut off all the bottom roots. Then most of this is all the mat that was on the bottom. If you just run your hand over it, all the dead stuff will come off in your fingers, and you can just gently pull it out of there. Get rid of that. And then secondary, you want to separate stuff so that it just looks good. There we go. That looks a lot better. I'll go around the whole tree and do that real quick. Picking the rocks out of the crotches of the roots here. So I'm going to be exposing this part of the trunk line. This tree did come from a cutting a couple of years ago. So all of these roots are about 2 years old, I'd say. So I mean, even the really thick ones are about 2 years old. These trees, you don't necessarily need to repot them every year. But you want to check on them every year to make sure that they don't need repotted. When they're in their early development stages, they need repotted more often. But after once they get to an established state, then you can let them go longer without repotting them. You want to take your time doing the work on your trees. You want to work on each tree like it's going to be something magnificent, just in case it turns into something magnificent. Then you've taken the time to make it that way. Even the funkiest looking trees, you can make them look really pretty if you take the time to work on them. Fix the little blemishes a little bit at a time, and then they start looking really nice. And then you can look back and be like, I'm glad I did that, rather than looking back and be like, I wish I would have done something different, or I wish I would have taken the time, you know. I wish I could do some better camera angles for y'all, so I'm sure it gets boring just looking at the side of the tree while I'm working on it. I like to get a camera that you can see down on the tree while I'm working on it also. Hopefully that comes with time. I'm going to spray down the smaller roots here. Make sure they don't get too dry. There we go. That's a pretty interesting root there. It's looking really good. So as the tree grows and as I water it, this black part will actually clean up. So there's no real need in washing it or cleaning it too much, because it'll clean itself off as you water the tree. So I'm going to put all of the old soil into my old soil bucket. I have like a colander or a steamer bucket or something. I'm not sure exactly what it was used for, but put everything in here because it works a lot like a colander. It'll dry it out, and then I can shake the smaller dirt particles into my compost, and then I can wash the rest of it out. clean up the bench a little bit as I go. And I'm going to take my pot. It's dried out by now. I'm going to take my screen. This is just a dog-proof screen. It's a really heavy-duty, strong screen. Then I'm going to place it in the pot. Kind of mark with my fingers where I want to cut it. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to fit. So, and obviously nobody's going to see it sitting in the bottom of the pot. So you kind of just cut the contour of the bottom of the pot. So that's what it looks like. It's not perfect, but it looks okay. It's covering the holes, keeping the bugs from getting inside here. All right, I'm gonna put the tree. Set the tree aside for just a second. All right, I'm gonna take my bonsai soil. This is kind of what the soil mix looks like. It's got some twigs in it. I usually take those out. I hope you can see that. I've got pine bark chunks. I think this is decomposed granite or crushed granite. I'm not sure what this is. It's another small rock, lava rock, and then the smaller pieces are the safety's orb. Or too big chunks of the pine bark, and I'll just crush it up. It crushes up pretty easy when it's dry. So I'm going to make a mound in the bottom here. And you make the mound so that when you push it in there, or push the tree into the pot, it will get up into the roots. But like I said, I want to lift it up a little bit, so I'm going to put extra to raise it up in the pot. All right. So that's it sitting on top of the mound that I've got in there. So I'm going to wiggle it and push it. Just twist it and push it until it feels good. Until it feels nice and solid. You hear this cracking. It's not the tree cracking. There we go. So now it's nice and solid in the pot. And then I'll tuck the aerial roots down in there a little bit. Use the end, maybe. You can use the end of this because it's got like a L shape on it. And just kind of push the roots down in there. Just like that. And they'll push in also while you're putting the soil in there. I just kind of like to get them aligned so I know where they're going. Make sure that they're going in the right direction. All right, and then we're going to fill in around all the roots. All right, and then these roots that are here sitting on top of this branch, or this other root, I'm going to take those off. Try not to take these back out of the soil. And that'll be okay just like that. There we go. That looks a lot better. All right, just like that. Looks a lot better. This portion of it looks a lot better. This portion will come in time. It'll be okay. It's got a lot of green little tips of leaves coming out, so it'll be okay. It's gonna take a little bit of time to recover. This branch looks like it's dead. This branch is dead. Take that one off there. All right. So there's that. I'm gonna go ahead and water it and put it back over here in the greenhouse and let her grow. So I will see you on the next one. Thanks for watching and have a fantastic day.